Welcome back. You're now watching Trend Wave on Breakfast Central. Now, a newly formed union of content creators and influencers in Nigeria, led by the acting president, Mr. Micheal Nwabufo, also known as Mike Premium, is calling for the release of skit maker Trinity Guy. Let's recall that Abdullahi Maruff Adisa, popularly known as Trinity Guy, had been detained by the Nigerian police alongside the parents of a minor following a skit in which he sexualized a female minor. To this end, the Union of Content Creators and Influencers, in a heartfelt plea for mercy, have submitted a letter to the recently appointed Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, for a courtesy visit to formally introduce the union and reiterate its commitment to sanitizing the content creation space in Nigeria. Now, Mr. Micheal Nwabufo noted that the union is charged with the responsibility of upholding best practices and ethics in content creation to ensure that skit makers express themselves within the confines of ideas that are in the best interest of the general public. Now, the acting president also used the opportunity to call on all content creators and influencers in Nigeria to become registered members of the union and contribute to the growth of the industry. He also pledged that the union will do its best to ensure the release of their member, Trinity Guy, and that other skit makers adhere to the ethics of the profession. But we'll take a look quickly at how people are reacting to this before we move to Uganda. That is a comment from Nikurai. She says, "It sexually harassed a minor, a little girl, and you are saying it deserves a second chance? Ha! Una deserve the leaders you have." Oh. That's according to Nikurai. Risk R says, "All this silly prank is getting too much. What if somebody died on the process? Who are they going to hold?" Let's take a look at one more remark and move quickly. I am Otika says, "Release him already. An example has been set. This sole action, and this would act as a deterrence to others who have bought such expensive pranks in their minds." Now let's move away now from Nigeria to Uganda, where legislators sitting on the Parliamentary Committee on Trade, Tourism and Industry were left dumbfounded by the revelation from the officials of the Ministry of Trade, who confirmed that a staggering 400 million Ugandan shillings was spent in moving documents from the ministry's office in Kampala to its stores in Entebbe. Now, the ministry offices are located at Farmers House in Kampala Central Business District. However, there was a need to transfer documents to the ministry stores in Entebbe. And just about 50 kilometers away, all this came at a cost of 400 million Ugandan shillings, which is approximately around 100,000 US dollars. Now, the officials who appeared before the committee said they do not know how that happened, instead referring to the permanent secretary, Ms. Geraldine Sally, whom they said had an idea of why such an expense was incurred in trying to transport documents. But we'll take a look at how Ugandans are reacting to this story on social media. Gasta goes on to say, wait, was the ministry moving documents or the entire building with its content from Kampala to Entebbe? You know these are very special and fragile documents like UNEB exams. What a challenge, but also pleasure. What a challenge, but also pleasure it must be to take on such a task. I think that's a bit of a sarcastic remark. That one is from Marvin. Marvin says a chopper from Bar Aviation can't even make 50 flights from Kampala to Entebbe at 400 million Ugandan shillings. That's madness. That's according to Marvin. Samson goes on to say, if transporting documents costs 400 million from Kampala to Entebbe, how much will it cost to transport money? And he has that meme of Mr. Bean looking really confused. And one more reaction to this story, then we'll move quickly. That is from Lukia. Lukia goes on to say the highlight of the day was the revelation by Trade Ministry officials that 400 Ugandan shillings, a million Ugandan shillings was spent on transporting of files from Kampala to Entebbe during the rehabilitation process at Farmers House. We shall leave no stone unturned in probing this level of corruption. I guess this corruption thing is a thing everywhere in African countries, or maybe just even around the world. But I just want to hear your reactions quickly to this story before we wrap up with Trend Wave, Olive and Osalgi.
I'd like to actually react to the Trinity Guy story first, if you'd permit me. I think that, first of all, it's very... I don't know if saying sorry would cut it, right? With comedy, there's a very thin line, very, very thin line that's easy to cross between what is allowed and what is very wrong. So in that case, I don't know what's going to happen. They're apologizing on his behalf. I don't know if the apology is enough, because it was a case of sexual harassment. You can't be having jokes that have sexual innuendos involving a child. And it doesn't matter that, according to him, he took permission from her parents. She's a minor. Parents cannot give consent for things like that. So I just hope that other content creators will learn a lesson, and that this is not something that we have to talk about again.
I hope so too.
But for me, I agree 100%. And I think this should be, an opportunity to teach Nigerians, both content creators and Nigerians generally, about sexual abuse and sexual harassment involving minors. It should not be joked with. I understand that, yes, we should also not keep a person in police custody beyond 48 hours. If you're going to charge them with something, charge him with it and let him be punished. Nobody should be begging, because this is not something you beg about. If somebody had lost their life, you can't beg, but this is something that is traumatizing for a child, and there's nothing like, I'm sorry, no vex. That doesn't make any sense. It's an opportunity, I believe, to teach everyone, both the poor and the rich, the old and the young, that sexual assault on minors will never be tolerated in Nigeria, and content creators should learn a lesson.